My former best friend went insane after I gave her a much-needed brutal reality check. She tried to ruin my wedding and get me fired, so I exposed her in a way that ruined her whole life. I met Rachel in college, intro to psych, sophomore year. We were assigned as lab partners, and I'll admit I was kind of awkward back then. Not shy, just closed off. Rachel, on the other hand, was the kind of person who could walk into a room and own it. She was loud, smart, unapologetically opinionated. She used to call us opposites who balanced each other. And for a long time, I believed that. We were friends for nearly a decade. Best friends, even. The kind who knew every detail about each other's lives, who could text, emergency, and be at each other's door in minutes. She saw me through my breakup with my ex of 4 years. I helped her through the death of her mom. We were family, basically. Or so I thought. But there were signs. There were always signs, I just didn't want to see them. Like when I got promoted at work and she made a joke that it must be nice to get ahead for being a straight white guy. Or when I told her I'd started dating my now wife and she said, dead serious, she seems fake. Too perfect. You sure she's not using you? And I laughed it off. Because that's what I did with Rachel, rationalized the way she undercut me, disguised her jabs as jokes, or chalked them up to just being brutally honest. Things got worse when I got engaged. That was the tipping point. Rachel did not take the news well. She pretended to be happy, of course, threw out a finally and hugged me tight, but her eyes? Her smile? I swear it was like I'd just told her I'd run over her cat. She tried to mask it, but there was something else behind that smile. And from that point on, the sabotage began. First came the passive-aggressive comments to my fiancée, Maya. You're so pretty, you look like one of those Instagram wives. And then the stories, oh man, the stories. Rachel told Maya one night over drinks that I used to be a serial cheater in college. Which is a complete lie. I didn't even date much in college. But Rachel knew Maya had been cheated on before, so she slipped that lie in like poison in a drink, then said, kidding, and laughed it off when Maya looked horrified. Maya told me later and I brushed it off at first. I was angry, but I didn't want to cause drama. That's how Rachel got away with everything. You tell yourself it's not worth it. You make excuses. But Maya saw it more clearly than I did. She's not your friend. She's trying to make me doubt you. And then came the wedding. Holy hell, the wedding. Rachel was one of my men of honor. She insisted. Said she had to stand next to me because you don't replace 10 years of friendship with some chick you met 3 years ago. I told her it wasn't a competition, but that didn't matter to her. She showed up to the rehearsal dinner an hour late, trashed. She gave an impromptu toast where she made some joke about me peaking in college and how Maya was definitely out of his league. People laughed awkwardly. I laughed too. I always laughed. The day of the wedding, she showed up in a white dress. I shit you not. A floor-length, strapless white dress. Maya was furious, obviously, but we were already dealing with so much that day we didn't even have the energy to fight it. Later, I found out she had cornered Maya in the bridal suite before the ceremony and said, "You're making a mistake. He's not who you think he is." That was the last straw. Except it wasn't. Because after we got back from the honeymoon, things escalated in a way I never imagined. So we get back from the honeymoon, glowing, exhausted, still on that cloud of we actually pulled it off. And Maya, bless her, tried to let the Rachel situation go. She said, let's just move forward. Maybe the wedding was hard for her emotionally. I nodded. I wanted to believe that. But inside, something had already shifted. I wasn't blind anymore. Then I returned to work. And within 3 days, my manager calls me in and says there's been an anonymous complaint. Apparently, I had inappropriate interactions with a junior employee. Vague as hell. HR had to open a formal review. Now let me be clear, I've never crossed any lines at work. I keep it clean, professional, boring even. But the accusation alone made things spiral. That week was a nightmare. HR had to interview the woman I allegedly harassed. She was horrified and confused. You've never done anything inappropriate, she said. This is insane. Thank God she had the spine to say that to HR. But the damage was done. People whispered. Meetings got awkward. I felt like I was constantly walking through invisible landmines. It was Maya who connected the dots. She said, babe, remember Rachel's friend who used to work in your department? What if it was her? I looked up her name, Stephanie. Sure enough, she had worked in our company 2 years prior in a different role. I checked LinkedIn and saw she had recently been rehired as a contractor on a separate team. A weird coincidence or not? I texted Rachel and asked bluntly, did you tell someone at my job I'd done something inappropriate? She replied, wow. Really? That's what you think of me? I've been nothing but supportive. The tone was so manipulative it felt like she'd flipped a switch I hadn't seen before. I didn't respond. Then it got worse. I got an email from our venue coordinator. Someone had left a 1-star review for our wedding venue under my name. Except I hadn't written it. It said the food was disgusting, the staff rude, and that the groom was flirting with bridesmaids while his wife was in the bathroom. What the hell? I contacted the site and proved my account had been impersonated. They took it down, but again, more smoke. More subtle slander. And then the final twist. I got a Dropbox link in an anonymous email titled, "Thought You Should Know." I clicked it, I know, dumb, and there it was, a folder full of screenshots. Private DMs, text messages from years back. Stuff I'd sent Rachel. Some funny, some dumb, some from when I was in a really dark place after my dad passed. She had saved everything. Even voice notes. Some of the captions on the files were titled things like "Proof He's a Narcissist" and "Emotional Manipulator." One screenshot was edited badly, but enough to make it look like I'd written something truly awful to Maya. It was fake. If you didn't know me, it might have looked real. That's when I realized. Rachel wasn't just lashing out. She was planning this. She had been planning this for a long time. She was building a digital dossier on me. Probably since the moment I got engaged. I remember just staring at my screen, heart hammering, realizing this is not a broken friend. This is not grief or jealousy or someone feeling left behind. This is calculated. And it hit me like a truck. She wants to ruin me. I spent the next 2 days barely sleeping. Maya and I talked for hours, trying to decide what to do. I felt filthy, like my whole life had been violated. All those nights venting to Rachel, all the texts she said were, between us, they were weapons now. She had turned my vulnerability into king knife. But I wasn't going to be quiet anymore. No. I'd been quiet for too long. All right. So now I knew Rachel was actively trying to destroy me, socially, professionally, even emotionally. She knew exactly where to hit: my job, my marriage, my sense of safety. And what scared me most? She was good at it. She didn't just burn bridges, she laid traps, then sat back to watch people fall into them. But if she thought I was going to roll over and let her win, she didn't know me at all. I started by getting smart. Quiet. Strategic. I pulled every message I'd ever sent her and cross-checked dates, tone, context. I wanted to know what she had and how she might spin it. Luckily, I'm the kind of guy who doesn't air out drama in texts. But still, I was digging through 10 years of friendship, remembering each moment where I confided in someone who was now weaponizing those memories. Maya, bless her, was my rock through this. She said if she's been building this file on you for years, she's probably been slipping pieces of it to people already. That clicked. So I reached out to some mutual friends we still had from college. Carefully. Just checking in. And sure enough, 2 of them admitted they'd heard things. One said Rachel told her I'd emotionally abused Maya. Another said Rachel hinted I cheated years ago and that Maya was just in denial. Neither of those things were true. Both of those things were devastating to hear. That was my breaking point. I decided to expose her. Not in some petty, get her fired, scream on Facebook kind of way. I wanted it to stick. I wanted people to see her for what she was. So I started with her anonymous Dropbox. It took me 2 hours, but I eventually traced the metadata on a file back to her Google account name. Rookie mistake on her part, she'd created a Google Drive mirror folder that had her personal email embedded in one of the share links. Boom. There it was, rachel.l*****@gmail.com*. It wasn't just anonymous anymore. Next step? I talked to my friend Jamie, who works in cybersecurity for a marketing firm. I asked her how someone could spoof an email address and impersonate me on review sites. She showed me tools and methods, and just like that, we matched the IP address of the fake wedding venue review to the city Rachel lives in. Not proof, but another breadcrumb. The big break came from Maya. Remember Stephanie, the former coworker Rachel was friends with? Maya still followed her on Instagram. Stephanie posted a girls' night selfie one night, tagging Rachel, and stupidly captioned it, "That time we got revenge on the office predator, LOL." Screenshot. Saved. You see where this is going, right? I packaged it all up: IP data, metadata from the Dropbox, screenshots of the caption, and a full timeline of Rachel's behavior. Then I wrote a long, detailed email and sent it to HR. Not just mine, hers too. She worked in a PR role for a nonprofit, one with a squeaky clean image. They couldn't afford the scandal. I told them everything. With receipts. Within a week, she was let go. They called it a restructure, but I know for a fact her team was told she had violated professional ethics. A friend of a friend who still works there confirmed that someone had come forward anonymously about harassment and that they were taking defamation and misrepresentation very seriously. That same week, I got a call from HR at my job. They closed the complaint, formally cleared me, and get this, offered me a lateral promotion with remote flexibility. We believe in our employees, they said. I think they knew something was off from the beginning. But now they were damn sure. And Rachel? She exploded. She texted me nonstop for 2 days, raging, crying, accusing. First, how could you do this to me? Then you were like a brother to me. Then I'll tell everyone you're a monster. Don't think this is over. But it was over. Because I took her final message where she threatened to ruin my life again and forwarded it to her ex-employer. One last receipt. The fallout? She nuked her social media accounts. Blocked everyone. Mutual friends distanced themselves fast. And me? I felt free for the first time in months. But the craziest part? That Dropbox? It had been shared with 7 people before I ever saw it. 7. That means she'd been shopping my private life around like a damn expose, hoping someone would cancel me. Instead, she canceled herself. You'd think the end of it, Rachel getting fired, the truth coming out, my name cleared, would have brought instant relief. Like, finally, I could breathe. But that's not how betrayal works. At least not the deep, rotting kind that comes from someone who once knew everything about you. The night after I sent the final message to her old job, the one that included her threat, I sat in the kitchen with Maya, just staring into my coffee like it was supposed to explain everything. I should have been happy. Victorious even. But I wasn't. I felt empty. Like all that fire I'd been burning to survive, this had finally gone out, and what was left behind was just smoke and silence. I don't understand how she could hate me that much, I said. It came out of nowhere. Maya reached for my hand and squeezed it, but I could barely feel anything. I never hurt her. Not really. Right? Maya didn't say anything at first. Then she whispered, some people don't need a reason to destroy you. Just an opportunity. And that was it. Rachel saw my happiness as theft. My wedding, my job, my peace, things she couldn't control. I think she convinced herself that I was some smug golden boy who needed to be taken down a peg. But we were friends. Best friends. She cried on my shoulder when her mom died. I'd stayed up nights editing her resume, helping her land her first real job. I even paid her rent 1 month when she couldn't make it and told her to forget about paying me back. And she thanked me by trying to erase my entire life. I'd be lying if I said I didn't question everything after that. I replayed every memory, every inside joke, every road trip and night spent venting about life. I asked myself, was it fake the whole time? Did she always have this resentment growing under the surface? The answer? I don't think she even knows. And that haunted me for weeks. There were moments, late at night, when Maya was asleep and the house was quiet, where I'd scroll back through our old messages. Just to remember what it used to be like. It was like reading letters from a ghost. One night, I found a photo of us from 6 years ago at a Halloween party. I was dressed like a cowboy. She was a pirate, flashing that big, confident grin. We looked happy. God, we were happy. And I felt this sharp, bitter ache in my chest. Like grief. Because friendship breakups don't come with closure. Not like divorces or deaths. There's no funeral, no therapy, no neat goodbye. They just rot in the back of your mind until one day they stop hurting as much. Or so I hoped. A week after everything came out, Rachel's sister, who I'd met a handful of times, reached out to me on Instagram. Her message was short. I don't know the full story, but I want to apologize. She's not okay. She hasn't been for a while. I didn't respond. Not because I was angry. I just didn't want to carry it anymore. Her mental state? Her motives? Her downfall? That's hers to own. I'd spent months playing defense in a war I never wanted. It wasn't my job to explain her pain. But I was left with scars. For weeks, I second-guessed everyone. If a coworker laughed too long at something I said, I wondered if they were mocking me. If a friend didn't reply to a text right away, I imagined them in some secret group chat, tearing me apart. That's what happens when someone close violates your trust. You stop trusting anyone. Even Maya. For a while, I kept waiting for the shoe to drop. Like maybe she'd decide I was too much baggage. Too paranoid. Too broken. But she never wavered. Not once. She stood by me when everything was unraveling through the HR chaos, the whispered rumors, the long nights of doubt. She made me feel safe. Loved. Real. You know what's crazy? I said to her one night, lying on the couch, her head on my chest. If Rachel had just been honest, if she just told me she felt abandoned, or angry, or left behind, I would have listened. I would have been there. Maya looked up at me and said, but then she wouldn't have been Rachel. And damn, she was right. After the exposure and fallout, life didn't immediately return to normal, but it began to take shape again. A shape without Rachel. The hardest part was the silence that followed. No more texts. No late-night calls. No sarcastic memes from her popping up when something dumb happened at work. It was like losing a limb. You don't realize how much of your day is wrapped around a person until they're gone. But it was needed. The first visible consequence for Rachel was professional. Her LinkedIn was wiped within a week. Word spread fast in her industry. PR is brutal like that. The nonprofit she worked at issued a bland, professional statement about privacy and internal investigations. But people read between the lines. She disappeared from panels, interviews, social posts. Just gone. Mutual friends who hadn't already cut ties started reaching out to apologize. I had no idea she was doing all that behind your back. Honestly, I thought you were overreacting until I saw the screenshots. I feel like an idiot. Some stayed loyal to her, people who probably believed her version of the story or were too afraid of the drama to pick a side. And that's fine. I wasn't keeping score anymore. I didn't need to win the friend group. I just needed peace. Rachel, though, she didn't take it quietly. 2 weeks after her firing, she emailed me. It was a rambling, emotionally erratic essay. 5 full paragraphs of apologies, deflections, self-pity, and backhanded accusations. She said she was in therapy, that she never meant to hurt me, that everything had just gotten out of hand. She also said I'd used her, that I abandoned her when I met Maya, that I'd made her feel invisible. Her words, not mine. She ended it with, "You exposed my worst moment, but I spent years watching you get everything. The career, the love, the life. Maybe I just snapped. I don't know. I just wanted you to understand me. That's all I ever wanted." I didn't respond. That was the moment I realized. Rachel never wanted reconciliation. She wanted absolution without change. She wanted to dump her guilt at my feet like it was my job to carry it around with her. I wasn't doing that anymore. Maya and I moved apartments not long after. New space, new energy. We painted the walls ourselves, ate pizza on the floor, turned our new living room into a home, not just a place. I started seeing a therapist. Not because of Rachel, because of me. Because I needed to process how deeply I'd allowed someone toxic to stay in my life for so long. How I confused loyalty with self-sacrifice. How I thought history was a reason to keep someone in my present. One of the wildest twists, a guy I barely knew from our college friend group messaged me out of the blue. Let's call him Eric. He said, "Hey man, I don't know if this is helpful or just drama you don't want, but Rachel did the same shit to me. Not as extreme, but yeah. She spread lies about my breakup. Told people I was abusive to my ex. Almost cost me a job reference. I just didn't have the energy to fight her." I thanked him, and it made something click. She'd done this before. Maybe not to this scale, but it was a pattern. And I, like others, had given her the benefit of the doubt for years, thinking I was the exception to her chaos. But no, I was just the next chapter in a long book of sabotage disguised as friendship. So what happened to her after? She moved back in with her dad for a while. I know that from a mutual friend who saw her post vaguely on Facebook about starting over and losing everything to betrayal. I heard whispers that she tried to freelance but couldn't land anything solid. Her name was starting to carry weight in the worst way. And me? I got better. Slowly. The HR drama at work faded. My team rallied around me. Maya and I booked a trip to Iceland. Something we'd always talked about but kept putting off. We stood on black sand beaches and hiked through volcanic trails and soaked in hot springs under the stars. I don't think I smiled that hard in months. One night in Iceland, I looked at Maya across the dinner table. Both of us bundled up and red-cheeked from the wind. And I said, "I'm not angry anymore." She smiled and said, "Good. That means she's gone." And damn, she was right.